Welcome everybody. Today it's Tuesday the 22nd of June 2021. My name is Rita Q and it's the Recovery from Relapse meeting of Overeaters Anonymous. Today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Alexis A, who's going to share his experience, strength and hope with us. Alexis lives in Essex, joined away back in April 2010, back in South Africa. So Alexis, I'll hand it over to you to take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Rita. So my name is Alexis. I'm a compulsive overeater. Wonderful to be here. If I'm not fully present, it's because number one, I've got this Labrador behind here who probably should be at meetings with me on the one hand. What's he got there? It looks like he's stolen something. Anyways, number two, obviously work is keeping me busy. Life on life's terms. I know these are crazy times and who knows where we'd all be right now, but obviously, there's a lot of things going on. So to be honest, I couldn't even remember which aspect I was thinking of because I cover both 100-pounders and relapse from recovery. Because when I joined OA, I weighed a little bit. I know Rita did mention this meeting likes a photograph. So for your eyes own, well, for everyone's eyes who's seeing this recording, you can get a picture. Yes, I'll just share my screen quickly. And I'll just leave it up there. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see the picture. Yeah, you can see it. Okay, great. Yeah, so that was me when I was weighing about 200 kilograms, which is roughly 400 pounds. And I say roughly because at the time I was too big to be weighed on a single scale. I was in a treatment center and they literally had to put me on two scales. So I was doing this balancing act. Yeah, so that was me at about 200 kilograms. I believe the heaviest I was at was around 215, which is, I think, about 450 pounds. I don't do those equations because first of all, the number doesn't matter anymore. I let go of that number a long time ago. And I think more importantly, it's the other stuff I got from the program that means way more because I wouldn't be able to handle a global pandemic having to juggle 6 or 7 different services I'm doing for OA, and I do have to let go of a couple of them, which is tough as it is because I'm a people pleaser. Being able to work full time remotely while looking, doing the work I do as an adult. Apparently, that's what I am, and I'll believe people if they keep saying it. But yeah, so. To be honest, this is the first time I've had so long to share, so I don't even know where to start. Well, let's start at the very beginning. Very good place to start, as they say. I was born and raised in South Africa, so the accent may have given it away for those who may be more astute, or those of you from South Africa. I've seen a couple of people here from there, so good to have you. Yes, I was born and raised in South Africa. I have a Jewish mother and a Greek father. Now, for those who encounter those cultures every day, the easiest way to understand them is basically everything gets answered with food. Something goes bad, you have food. Something goes well, you have food. Something's not so great. Let's have something sweet and talk about it over a coffee. Yeah? So this is the sort of environment I grew up in. But that's not an excuse. I think it just made it easier for me to hide what was plainly obvious in hindsight. And that is when it comes to the allergy that is food, I certainly suffer from that ailment, and it's an easy one to hide it. I remember someone once asked me, so what are your trigger foods? And I was, well, just give me anything. There's nothing. The substance is almost immaterial. It's not a question of what I can and what I can't have. It's what it's not what can I have, it's what can't I have. The items didn't even matter because the disease was in here and here. So born and raised in South Africa, Greek mother, Jewish father. I wasn't Greek enough for the Greeks because there's a Greek community there. And I wasn't South African enough for the South Africans. I wasn't Jewish enough for the Jews. So I wasn't enough for anyone. And most probably I wasn't enough. And sometimes I feel I am not enough for myself. This is my inner critic that I struggle with all the time. It's something that will probably be a lifelong medicine I'll need to give myself, but the program helps with that. Yeah, so never really belonged anywhere, but the one thing that always gave me the illusion of comfort was food, because it never talked back, never complained, never, it was just there. And again, because of the environment I grew up in, it's easy to hide in there because everything was solved by food. Oh, you got beat up at school, shame, here's a cake. Oh, you got, you did really well at school, well done, let's go eat out. This was the mechanism that my life was centered around. And yeah, and I lived like that for the first, and then yeah, and that was school, and I got bullied and stuff, like many people who come into these rooms. I was picked on as a kid, and of course being the fat kid didn't really help things as well. And because of my timid nature and the that lack of self-confidence, and that that inner critic going off, I was an easy target for the bullies. And it just carried on. I got to high school, and eventually I got big enough that actually, this fat little kid can actually play. There's a purpose, because I can play rugby. Now, for those who may not know, Greeks do not play rugby, so it wasn't that hard to be good at something that no one else really does. And when you are, I want to say about 200, yeah, I was about 100 kilograms, so about 220 pounds when you are, what was I, 15 years old or something. It's easy to see why they'd push me into a sport like rugby. It's like American football for those who may not be familiar with rugby as a sport. So that was, and of course for those 3 years it was easy. I suddenly went from being the pariah to the popular person, because apparently sports makes you cool. Who knew? And again, managed to hide in plain sight, because the food was there. Oh, he's a growing boy. Apparently weighing 150 kilograms leaving school is a growing boy, not something that's morbidly obese. But yeah, and then and you'd think, okay, well, he's learned his lesson. He went to university, he saw the error of his ways, and everything went great. Nope. University just made it even easier to hide, because suddenly there were other substances that I had access to that just made it even easier to hide. Because suddenly you could smoke this and you can drink that, and oh, I've lost my mind. Oh no, I'm just going to eat all this food and make it seem like I wasn't doing that just to get to the food. And it took some reflection, and my addictions and the other substances were actually rooted in food. So it goes to show you how sick must a person be to get hooked on, addicted on substances in order to justify the food. But this is the mind we're dealing with here. Good luck. And university was just another one of those phases where it was just chaos, and somehow I managed to come through that unscathed. I managed to come out with a couple of degrees. I even went to, and of course, you'd think, okay, well, he'd make smart choices. Hopefully he's gotten a degree. He's going to go and do a proper degree, extended degree, and he's going to go somewhere that's not going to be so bad for you. Mississippi, Oxford, Mississippi. Yeah. And for those who don't know the US that well, if food is your religion, then Mississippi is probably Mecca. And of course, I thrived there, thrived in inverted commas, because suddenly, oh no, not only is he the big person on campus, look how much he can drink. Look at this, and oh my God, who the hell can, all this craziness, all this insanity, that I even ended up being referred to in a Los Angeles Times article as Faustus. No, sorry, wasn't Faustus. One of the Shakespearean characters. I can't even remember which now, but basically I was referred to, for my gluttony and ridiculousness. Like, yeah. So not many people have that distinction. And then you'd think, even then, okay, well, he's learned his lesson. He's seen the error of his ways. He managed to blag his way through a bachelor's degree and an honors degree and a master's degree. He should learn his lesson by now, surely. Nope. Went back home and just carried right on. And thankfully, it didn't carry on for too much longer because my sister, who was studying her master's degree in psychology, happened to do a course on addiction and started looking around her. And she came to me the one day and said, Alexis, have you considered that maybe just maybe you might be addicted to food? And of course, that was ridiculous. Because how the fuck can you be, pardon my French, how can you be addicted to food? How on earth? I mean, I could get that I had a problem with the drinking and I had problems with certain substances, but because they're addictive materials. But how on earth can you tell me that this chocolate bar or that thing, and you can't be addicted to food? It's insanity. Well, a week went by, and thank God my higher power gave me the kick in the butt that I needed, because for some reason there's no explanation other than it's my higher power. For some reason, a week went by and the thought didn't disappear from my mind, and a killer craving just wouldn't go away. And the only thing that stopped it was binging on something less bad than what I was thinking to binge on. And I went to my sister with the humble pie already well eaten, saying, so that thing you mentioned about being addicted to food, maybe you've got something there, something we can look at. And she immediately came back with, okay, well, here's a phone number for a treatment center. I've already been in touch with them. Let's get you down there. So one phone call, and about 3 days. So 72 hours later, I was flung away to a different part of South Africa, where I was locked away for 7 months. Well, to be accurate, first 3 months I was technically locked away. I was kept within certain restrictions and stuff, and the final 4 months I was able to have more freedom and stuff. But basically, I spent 7 months getting an intensive, a lot of self-development, and also awareness around the 12 steps and all the stuff that OA was teaching. And that was actually during that time I got to go technically to my first OA meeting. And I say technically because I don't think it was a formal registered meeting on the OA website, but it was for OA anyway, for eating. And they used the OA formats and everything. So anyways, but the main thing is that my first ever meeting was I think it was in July or August 2010. But my journey started in April 2010. But my first OA meeting and my first exposure to what OA was and what it's about and how it can help me was around July, August 2010. And what then started was quite a long journey. You saw the photograph of me. I think that was in October 2010, and it took me the better part of 18 months to get down to a reasonable weight. And in fact, I think upon reflection, I actually went quite extreme, and I got overly, I went towards the exercise bulimic route. So I was over exercising and doing that aspect of what as well. And what I found very early in my OA journey was that, you get, I once heard it said in a famous person from an AA meeting, and I say famous because when you hear the person speak, you would know who this person was because he's on film and television. But this person mentions that you use the program the way you used your substances. So for me, given the way I've probably described the food that some of you may relate to, and some of you may think, geez, I don't have a problem. That guy has a problem. But even if that is the case, for someone like me, what you've heard, I needed to do everything. So I got into service super quick. When I went back home, which was in Johannesburg in South Africa, I immediately got involved in meetings. I went to all the meetings that were available. I think at the time there were 4 that I could go to. I immediately got involved as soon as possible in doing meeting service at a couple of those meetings. I eventually got into do intergroup service and brought some of the stuff that I'd learned from my work to try and give them that structure. And as far as I know, they're still doing it great and stuff. We did national conferences. And then eventually I got involved. I then moved to the UK because one of the things I realized is, unfortunately, to do the work that I was interested in doing, I needed to move to the UK. So this was about 6 years ago, and it was around that time that I also started doing work for the virtual region. So we started a couple of WhatsApp meetings that were particularly focused for Region 9, which, for those who may not be from this region, Region 9 is Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Western Asia, if I remember correctly. So we started with those WhatsApp meetings, and those meetings took off quite well. And this was well before the pandemic. I think those have been going on now for, I want to say, 4 years or so, 3 or 4 years. And last I checked, they're still all going strong. We've even, I think, about a year and a half ago, we even developed a special men's focused one. Not special because it's men. I mean, it's a special focus because it happens to be for male members of OA, but obviously everyone's always as welcome. About a year and a bit ago, a fellow here in the UK and I decided that we wanted to do a men's focused Zoom meeting. So we do those on a Tuesday evening in the UK time. And I'm not going to try and advertise it here. I know Rita would kill me if I do. But then on top of that, we've started a new intergroup now that's includes a number of meetings, and it's about being virtual. And I do a lot of work at the virtual region. And yeah, so service has kept me sane. I'd love to say service is slimming, because obviously my inner critic would say this is not slim, but you know, service keeps me here. You know what's the thing they say? You come for the vanity, you stay for the sanity. I don't think I ever had the vanity component, if I'm honest. That's the curse of the low self-esteem and the inner critic. But I certainly, it's certainly the sanity has kept me here, because it's been, yeah, about 11 and a bit years I've been in the program. And before I forget, because some people probably asking the obvious question, how long have you been abstinent for? I recalibrated my abstinence about 2.5 years ago. I don't know if I had previously relapsed or not. I just decided with the new sponsor at the time that I just needed to, let me just start from scratch, because the number, it doesn't matter to me if I've been abstinent for 30 years, 30 minutes, 30 days, because the number's incidental. The most important thing is right here, right now. Am I abstinent? And if the answer to that is no, good news. We've got 12 steps, 12 traditions, and 9 tools that can help you. And I find all of them just as helpful, just as useful. And if you think after 11 years, you think I feel even remotely close to having cracked it, I promise you, no. I definitely do not. There's always something new I learn. It's either a new interpretation or an insight on what step 1 might mean to a newcomer that's just coming in from a relapse. It might be a reinterpretation that World Service has done to a tool that we may use. It may just be doing, like, I always learn something new. It's as simple as that. And when you start a new meeting, I don't know how many people here actually know why we actually have meetings, because the argument is that technically, once you've done this program long enough, you're cured, in inverted commas, and you don't really need the meetings. But does anyone know why we actually have meetings? I'll assume that's rhetorical, because hopefully some of you may know this, but the reason we actually have meetings is so that the newcomer knows how to find us. Because what the truest sign of someone who is, as I don't like to say recovered, because I don't think you ever fully recover, but the people that live the program, you won't be able to tell them from anyone, because they're the people out there that are living their lives, that are doing it all, that can You know, they have the abstinent meals, they do what's right for them, and they move on. You wouldn't be able to tell them from anyone else. So the reason we have these meetings is so that the newcomer knows, this is where I need to come to, you know. And maybe some of you have been lucky enough to be that person that attracts people and tells them, well, you know, what's this thing? And you point them in the right direction. So this is why we have meetings, and this is why we do all this service. There is method to the madness. I promise you. You may think it's crazy that we have, you know, how many people we've got here? We've got 100. Wow, 114. That's not going to stroke my ego at all. 114 people, you know, that come to this meeting. There are, and this is one of many other meetings that are probably going on right now. You know, we have this insane structure that no leaders. What? I mean, come on. You know, at the very least, let's have a president. You know, it makes it easier. It gives us the direction. It gives us the guidance. Well, you know, yeah, and we don't have that. Our president is someone who doesn't need a name and who is different for all of us to a higher power. Trying to think what else. How much time do I have? Who's keeping track of time? Because I've just been waffling on, and I've, no pun intended, you know, with the waffle. How long do I have?
You've done 21 minutes, so you've got another 9.
Wow. And here was me thinking I was reaching the limit. She said, I don't. Let me just check in with my higher power and see what should I be talking about. Well, let me. I'll touch on a little bit about what I do at the moment that helps me, and especially for those who may be coming back from relapse or nearing the brink, having many slips and whatnot. You do what works for you, obviously, but certainly what helps me is, number one, first and foremost, having the tools on hand. Because the thing I find the best about the tools is they stop the idle hands. So obviously, if you're sponsoring someone, they'll help your recovery as much as you are helping them. If you are the sponsor, and if you're being sponsored, you know, the opposite is true. You've got meetings like this, so you can always learn something. You always learn something in a meeting, I promise you. I've yet to go to a meeting where I haven't gotten anything. I promise you. I've been to meetings that have been horrible, but I've yet to go to a meeting where it's been, I've yet to go to a meeting that's been completely useless. Like, I've been to meetings where 99% of it was a train wreck, but that 1% made up for it. Every meeting gives me something. Literature, because when your hands are busy, I promise you, again, just like with the other stuff, you learn something new in the literature every day, and there's always different literature coming out. Writing, okay, I don't do that one very well, I'll be honest. I got a big mouth, but I'm not very good with the writing part. And, you want to know what kind of an addict I'm so bad. I'm really good at deluding myself, and that's why writing is such a pain for me, because I'm the kind of person that will write a thing that I would be lying to myself about. And obviously my mind, I know I'm lying about it, but I'll still write it just because there's that fear that someone will see what I'm thinking honestly. I'm trying to think what the other ones are now. See, I've lost track. But the point is, the tools keep you busy. They keep your hands busy, especially if you're feeling that thing. But I think the most important thing, obviously, is self-honesty. And I'll be honest, no pun intended, I can't do that well. Self-honesty is a real, it's a real MF, as the kids would say nowadays. It's a real MF. If you don't know what the acronym stands for, good on you. You're a better person than I am. Sadly, I've watched too much, I've listened to too much rap music in my life that I know what that stands for. But self-honesty is a tough one, because that's when the disease thrives. The disease thrives when you have that self-doubt, when you have an inner critic, you know, because oh, you know, no, you don't, you're doing great. You've got 10 years, blah blah blah. You should be able to celebrate, and that you think is going to be abstinent, and you know, it really is. it really is such a horrible disease, because you think you're fine and you think you've got it under control, and no. Just like a car crash, you know, you're not going to see it happening, but just like with the car, there's a reason why insurance is required, because it helps you in case of an emergency, and that's what the tools and that's what OA has done for me. You know, there's a thing they talk about that whenever you're doing a share, you're actually doing three. There's the share you plan for. In my case, you don't plan for. There's the share you actually give and the share you wish you gave. And I just hope that the three of them aren't completely off kilter, and hopefully I haven't upset everyone and the room's disappeared from 114 to 14. So I think I'm just going to leave it there and just say it's a real pleasure. It was, I'll be honest. Okay, let's have a moment of self-honesty here. I didn't really have the time for this, and I've got so much work I have to get back to and stuff, but I'm glad I took this time to come and share in the middle of my workday. And it's just to say, it's just a pleasure to have been here, and I wish you all a great rest of your day. Hopefully you'll have a little way more serenity than I have, because I'm not feeling serene at the moment because of work, but that's a whole other thing. Thankfully, and by the way, I've got the serenity prayer up here plastered on the thing, so when I have one of those days like I've been having lately, I've literally got it up here. So if I ever forget the words, and I've never have, I've got them up here for me as well. So that's the thing, and I'll just leave it there. Say thank you all so much, and yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Thanks a million.